Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Patricia.
Hello.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, everyone.
Bonjour. Hi, Karen. Hi, AJ.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's good to see you. It's like family
Same
now.
here.
Oh, and you have the dog too.
Oh, yeah, one of them. 4 of them.
One of them.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the talk. It's nice to see you.
Hello.
Hi, Tufan. Hi, Andres. Hi, David.
Tufan was the first one to wait for the talk.
I'm excited to join the discussion.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to see you for this new get together, and we're pleased to introduce the topic of the day. Reminding you of the format, we have 30 minutes. The program is one topic. Today it's about ethical dilemmas, and the floor is yours, which means the idea is that you share some experience, some questions, some doubts on how to address the topic. And we respond in the best possible way with Philippe, and Camilla is here, and Camille. Thank you all for being here. Probably Francesco will join, and it's always a pleasure to be here to share every second Friday of the month. At the end of the talk, we'll make a few announcements because we have a few things coming up. It was a pleasure welcoming you to the Savoir-Relier community at the talk. So who wants to share, without further ado and without saying more about ethical dilemma, questions, doubts, points of view, stories about what resonates for you when we talk about ethical dilemmas?
I can start.
Thank
I
you.
was really thinking about this, and for some reason, I couldn't come up with a direct ethical dilemma that I experienced in my job. But I think we are right now in the midst of a huge ethical dilemma with the pandemic, with the vaccines. And I just got that idea this morning, but I think the companies, the countries, they're in that dilemma of enforcing the vaccine versus the freedom of a person of deciding whether they want to take the vaccine or not. And I think that's a very difficult decision.
You are definitely touching on one of the crucial point about ethical dilemmas, which is choice decision-making between options that are neither right nor wrong. No one option is good. And it's definitely true that the pandemic has challenged leadership at all levels. When we look at the different positions that our country leaders have taken, Emmanuel Macron in France, Joe Biden in the US, and many other country leaders that have made different choices, taken different directions, that really resonates well with the question of ethics. Yeah. And what you're also referring to, Patricia, is the fact that when we're addressing ethical dilemmas, some of them are exogenous, they come from outside, and they can be at the world level. Some of them are closer to you and more personal or individual, and they may come from you. In either case, whether they're exogenous or endogenous, there are ways of approaching ethical dilemmas that are tied into how you have done the work and done the job of where are your values, where do you stand, and how do you make those decisions. But also, as we often say, it's not just the decision, it's the consequences of the decisions, and measuring the impact that any kind of decision may have on not just you, but your surrounding, and sometimes at a national level, a whole country of people, and how it can impact a whole nation. So making those decisions is clearly, and we are in the middle of a major ethical dilemma. Now, how you can perhaps to bring the topic back to your own experience. Anyone else who's present this evening, if you want to share a personal story that has put you in a difficult situation, moral dimension being involved, and having difficult choices to make, please take the floor.
I have one. And maybe I think a lot of people can relate to. It's once in my first job, I was working for a big consultancy firm. And in the end of a project, I discovered that the person who paid for the project was not someone not a good country, not a good anything actually. It was like a very bad people that paid for a huge consultancy project that I worked on during, I don't know, maybe 2 months. And in the end, I didn't know what to do. Should I leave the company? Should I stay? Would it be like this in any company I went to? So it was very hard to decide whether to continue working knowing that it would be like this. I was not the one who chose the clients, but still I loved my work.
Good question. Anyone wants to react or share other stories?
What would you have done in Camilla's place?
Once I had an experience.
Alok, yeah, please.
Once I had an experience, like it was a test in university, and many of the students were out of station due to some festival, and so they couldn't attend the test. And so I mailed my teacher that what should I do now, since many won't be able to come in. So she said that the test date is final. It's your decision if to come or not. On the contrary, I was suggesting with my friends and classmates what to do, and they said that I shouldn't go. And elsewhere, my parents were saying that it's a test. You are prepared for it, you must go. It was a very bad dilemma I faced.
And what did you do?
I went, and all my classmates were like, not all, like almost all, were against me. And it was a mess in case of friends and classmates, but I sat for the test and did good marks. That's it.
And
Okay.
do you after those, I guess, months?
Pardon, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, there was a mic somewhere open. After when was that? Years ago or months?
1 year ago,
Okay.
like the past year, when
And
everything was normal.
looking back at what happened, do you regret your decision or do you still?
No, I didn't regret. People
Right.
were saying like I betrayed friendship like that. But I was like, for my side, I'm quite justified. I formally received an email from my professor that I should attend the test, and I did it. What I have to do, I was satisfied with my own self, and so were my parents. But in case of that classmate friendship, it was a mess, which I had to control for some time, for a long time.
Yeah, but that's a very interesting example because it's something that you have to live with, which sometimes is difficult.
Exactly. They were like, we'll see how you sustain in the upcoming years without us, like that. I was like, okay, I am on my right track. My professors know that I haven't done anything wrong, so are my parents. So there's nothing to regret or to feel sorry about.
It's a very good example. I think one solution that you provide us with is actually to be able to project in the future, if I take the decision to do or not to do, what can I look at myself in the mirror a year down the road and what will be the consequences of my choice? And sometimes validate this, qualifying what will be the actual consequences, helps sort of make some trade-off between what is actually short-term gain versus long-term sustainable choice. And that's the way to decide what you want. And of course, if you go for the short-term gain, you know at the back of your mind that a year or 2 years down the road, you say, that was a good choice. That took me, gave me something at the time, but I know that I have to live with the consequence of it. Yeah, that's
Yes, the disagreement with friends was short term, but the impact of the results is a long term. So that's why I chose that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Anybody else wants to share an ethical dilemma?
I would just like to share something. It's at first I like to share a story, then instance which happened with me. It's an old story. Like when Alexander was invading India, there was a teacher, there was a professor who was actually giving him resistance. His name was 𝐓𝐶. There's a story which goes that Alexander sent one of his top person, top minister, to meet him. And the person, when he came to meet him, he saw that this professor is writing something. And he asked him, "You came to meet me for what? Is it something related to country or it is something personal?" And the person said, "I came to meet you for some personal thing." Now, this professor 𝐶 is writing. After finishing his writing, he just turns off the lantern which he was using and turn on the another one. After discussion, this minister asked him, why did you do that? He said, because the earlier one was from the oil which was given by the king, and this one is my personal. So when it's ethics, definitely sometimes there's a dilemma, but we have to be clear what is to be done. I would just like to share one example which happened with me some time ago. One of my good performing person, I found him being involved in something which you can call unethical, against the company policy. So it was an option with me whether to ignore or to take a disciplinary action. I decided to take a disciplinary action, and I definitely feel good for that. I don't repent that action. So these are two things which I take when I say what I feel when it's ethical. Technically, there should not be any dilemma. We have to stick to what we feel is right, and that's my personal take.
Yeah.
Sticking to what you feel is right. You have the question of right, and if you have the question of right, you put right versus wrong. So how do you decide what is right and what is wrong? And how do you cope with the fact that right and wrong can be different for different cultures in different situations? And even sometimes the moment itself of the situation may shift the borderline of the right and wrong. So how do you cope with this? That's also a critical question of ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
And you also go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm saying there's nothing right, nothing wrong. It's a decision which is there, something which has a long-term beneficial effect, which you think which will sustain for longer for larger population, is something which can be called as right.
Yeah. I last week or so ago, I was working with a company that is doing business in different countries in the world where the question of corruption is very important. And we find that in different cultures, there are different ways of performing, of even just sharing, and of behaving. And one of the very questions that lies behind decision-making for those companies that have certain values is to decide, are the values to be adapted to the culture of the country because we're working there and we're working there for the country? And where do you draw the line? Where is the limit? And because ethical issues can involve different behaviors in different situations, one thing we work on very closely with Camila, for example, is the question of the core value, the head value of an organization, and how it drives all of your decisions, and sometimes even to the point of not doing business in certain areas or in certain parts, or as Camila was pointing in her own case, in her own story, when there is something that is not adapted or it does not respond to your values, what decision do you make? Do you quit the company? Do you leave? Do you adapt to the situation because the business is still good? All those are questions that go back to the work that we're doing when you're developing yourself and you're developing your leadership, is to decide for yourself by working on you and yourself, how you relate to others, so all your circles of relationships. Where are your limitations? Where do you draw the line? What are your values? What are your limits? So that in the long run, you sustain your walk the talk behavior, you're feeling good with your own decisions, like Alok was just saying, and looking at your face in the mirror in the long run, as I like to say, when comes the time when you have to look back, the less regret you have for the decisions you've made and the actions you've taken, the more likely you are to be at peace with yourself and your surrounding. And I think that's a good driver in terms of finding where, what you can live with and where you draw the line, both for yourself and for the ecosystem you build around yourself and the people you choose to work with and to do business with. So I think that's important. Yeah, thank you for sharing your both story and case, AJ. Anybody else wants to share a story?
I have a story actually that I think kind of highlight what you just discussed, and I thought it was really interesting. A few years ago, I was contacted by a colleague. We're scientists, and he approached me with a dilemma. And his dilemma is that he actually came from Asia, and so he had there's a culture of loyalty and deep-rooted loyalty to your manager and your leader. And so what he had shared with me was that within his organization, this particular leader, which is head of a company, was falsifying data. And he was put in a position where he was requested to falsify data. And he was in a great dilemma, not understanding how to deal with this because of his culture. Because he was in a culture where you support your leader and your manager, and this is unquestionable. So he approached me on this dilemma, and I explained to him my perspective, and that this is something that you definitely cannot comply. Nevertheless, my friend, who was caught in this terrible dilemma, did what he felt was the right thing for him. And it was unfortunate because he was then, this was then brought to the board for review. And the leader of this group was then was removed from the company for that. And so was he. And so all of the blame, of course, comes to him because he was the actual scientist who did this. So he was terribly devastated. And so, this is where I thought it was really highlight what you said. Truly, it's from a cultural perspective too. And he knew it was wrong, but he had this strong, it was cultural that he had, this is how he was, this is part of his life and how he was brought up and how he thought to think and behave. It was years, we worked with him to try to help him, recoup his profession, his career. And it took a very long time. Because it's just, became a pariah in the scientific world. So this is definitely an unfortunate situation, but I thought this is one of those ethical dilemma where someone can easily get caught in.
I guess you know the person well. Are you still in touch with that person?
Yes, I am. Fortunately, after many years, he's able now to recover. It was a hard climb. It was a difficult climb for him. And I think by living here in the US, I think slowly understands more about the culture here and how to adapt and to understand, and when he was initially in the early years, he was fresh from, coming into the US and operating here. And this man had unflinching loyalty, truly. And then you think about it, and it's quite sad because I understand why he did what he did.
Yeah.
and with this conflict of cultural behavior. So it's never, sometimes difficult to gauge what is right, what is wrong. And just as you have said, it's the definition, right? And the relevance and the context.
And what you're bringing up in the example you gave is that if we are to give advice, there is no right or wrong. I mean, nobody can tell you what to do except yourself. And I think that's also a big lesson in the work that we're pursuing and that we're encouraging you to develop, is the fact that in the same way nobody can change you, only you can change yourself if you want to. And sometimes, yes, life cycles bring big lows, and it's very hard to climb back. But there are places where compromise is not possible, and it's only the long term that will tell whether you made the right decision or not, and right belongs to you. So all this work that we're encouraging you to do on developing yourself, opening up to others, to get feedback and different perspectives, to take that step back and see situations and problems in different lights. I'm guessing that you played a significant role in your friends climbing back and finding other ways, because you opened other perspectives. And it's the same thing we discuss when we work on resilience. When you're faced with adversity, difficult situations, difficult choices, and you do the work and you find the mechanisms to recover, but sometimes it takes a long, long time, like those black swans, that you're facing, where you have huge downturns, and you have to do that work. It's also where you grow. And that's where looking back helps you rebuild something and build sense for yourself and become stronger. So it's also part of the process, maybe.
Yeah, just want to add something. If you look at situation in groups, so let's say in business, but it could be any kind of group we're a part of, this question around ethical issues or dilemma can be an extreme example. The example you gave is actually pretty strong, and sometimes there is just no choice, because either you just resign or there's something you cannot accept. But in fact, I believe also that there are many, many other kind of ethical dilemma in organization that are kind of much lower in terms of impact and importance. They are always small things, just, at the edge of morality, the edge of fairness, the edge of justice. They are not really strong, but they are just something that shouldn't happen. And those ones are the ones we live with. And I think here you can decide to have different posture about this. And sometimes, because it's small, we say, oh, it's not a big deal. That's not my business. And we can live with that. And I believe that this is maybe where you can actually stand and do something, which is, because they are not so huge dilemma, but they are small things that can actually, impact the business long term in terms of values, etc., culture. Then there may be an action to be taken, because you don't take irreversible decisions, or you're not going to fight against a huge mountain, but you are going to do small things that just not let people do certain things. And just by your day-to-day activity, have the courage to stand for a few things that can make a change over time in the organization, or in the group, or in the family, or wherever group you're part of. I think that's also a way to look at this dilemma and see where my responsibility lies and how much I'm prepared to do about this. And action become the expression of my willingness for that to change or not to change. So passive versus active role, which can be also a sort of perspective on this question of dilemma. Yeah.
And again, as always, we have a half hour for a discussion, and we choose topics that are so broad and that open so many different avenues. Maybe one closing point, that the question of ethical dilemmas and situations that involve difficult choices, One landmark you can have in mind that you've worked on when doing the Savoir-Relier process is those 3 Gs, genuine, generous, and generative. And by looking at yourself and saying, have I been myself? Have I been true to myself? Have I been genuine in the decision that I make here? Or am I genuine? Am I considering other people and how it affects my surrounding? It could be a closer circle, a larger circle, depending on the environment. We started with the dilemma that is at the pandemic level, so we're talking world level, but there are also more personal dilemmas. And generative, meaning what am I going to, what are my actions and decisions are going to produce in terms of results, impact on performance, on production of something positive, having in mind that those 3 Gs have a purpose to create value. And if your decision, your process, and where you are, and the dilemma you're in leads you to something that will bring negative impact or will hurt your surrounding, then it's something to consider in where you go. So maybe this is a landmark from the work you've done that you can remember and put back to your reflection and to your maybe answers that you can bring to your situations. And keep sharing, because we know how important it is to create those moments where you open up and you have people around you. We now talk about, in our new developments with the Savoir-Relier process, we are developing the notion of trustees, where you bring support groups together that you've built based on the number of duos that you've done with one another, and creating that shared trust within the group so that you have these support groups to help you in those difficult times of difficult choices and decisions. And it's always a great resource to know that you're not alone and you have those people that you can rely on in those difficult moments. So that's one other suggestion. We're reaching the end of our talk, and I promised when we started that I would share with you some of our new developments and what we've been doing, working on new courses, new content. We're going to very, very soon launch a new track with a new platform called Future Learn. And we're very pleased to announce that in maybe today or Monday at the latest, we'll have this new program available for you. So you can go to Future Learn. Actually, Camila and Camille will share with you some of the links to the course. You can have a look. It's a brand new expert track, which is what they call. So it's a 4 courses process using the Savoir-Relier approach to keep on developing yourself and building your own leadership development as it goes. There are going to be more to come because this is the first of 4 tracks that we're working on. And we're very happy to announce this. The format is slightly different from what you have experienced on Coursera because it associates personal work with articles that you can share. And there's a lot of discussions embedded in the platform. So it's slightly different from the early experience that you've had with Coursera. So that's our new development, and we're happy to share this kind of bit of news in our work.
It's gonna be Monday.
Monday.
Yeah. They stopped work in the UK.
So release is on Monday, and if you're interested, just go and look and have a look at our brand new design and brand new ways of putting. Yeah, you'll get
an email on Monday to everybody. So
okay. So it's our pleasure to share this hard work producing this result. It's been months that we've been working on that, so we're very happy. And we're looking forward to having this talk next month. One suggestion, Francesco gathered some ideas, and one of them was, Francesco, you want to share, some of you on LinkedIn discussed and shared new ideas, and one was on the digital leadership, meaning how as a leader given the times we are living, how you can manage to keep your influence and your getting your teams together and working in the same direction and together while working remotely, which is a huge challenge we're facing. So that's one topic we may have and put on the table for our next talk next month. I think it's very relevant. Back in France today, we are now again in confinement. So the lockdown is another time our daily life. I know many of you are still facing the same situation. So I think it's an apropos topic. Thank you for sharing, Francesco, and we look forward to meeting back again next month. And in the meantime, please stay tuned, stay posted, share, use our resources like Facebook and LinkedIn to share, and stay posted. We'll be happy to be back with you in a month. Thank you, Camille, for doing the work with the Facebook community. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, Sami, for being here. Thank you, Camila. And looking forward to more.
Thank you.
Have a very nice
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
and a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Stay healthy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay healthy
Bye.
too. Bye, Andres. Bye, everyone. Bye, Olga.